Modern society often paints aging as a phase of quiet decline, a slow fade into the background. Yet, Buddhist philosophy offers a radically different perspective. The senior years are not a diminishment. They are a luminous, extraordinarily rare opportunity for profound clarity and spiritual awakening. At this stage of life, the ambitions that once cluttered your mind have softened. However, your time and emotional energy are finite. Think of your heart as a lamp. In these final chapters, you must be deeply mindful of how much oil you have left to burn. Peace is now your precious currency. Protecting that peace is the highest form of wisdom. Let us explore the dynamics you must gently step away from to preserve your light. The foundation: equanimity versus coldness. Before we identify the specific individuals who may be quietly draining your vitality, we must first build a foundation. We need to dismantle a deeply ingrained cultural misunderstanding about what it means to be a loving spiritual person. Many of us were raised with the quiet assumption that endurance is the ultimate proof of love. We are taught that to care for someone means we must absorb their pain, tolerate their demands, and set ourselves on fire just to keep them warm. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a beautiful and profoundly misunderstood quality called upekkha. In English, it is often translated as equanimity. When Westerners hear the word equanimity, they sometimes imagine a state of cold, emotionless detachment. They picture a person sitting on a distant mountain, entirely indifferent to the suffering of the world. But that is not what the Buddha taught. True equanimity is the profound wisdom to love another human being completely without being swept away by their internal storms. It is the ability to remain deeply present and deeply caring, while simultaneously recognizing when your care has shifted into a vehicle for your own destruction. Upekkha allows you to stand firmly on the shore and throw a life preserver to someone who is drowning, rather than jumping into the raging water and allowing them to pull you under. This brings us to a radical teaching from the Buddha, one that many find startling the first time they hear it. He stated that you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. For someone who has spent a lifetime serving others, raising children, supporting a spouse, caring for aging parents, and managing a household, this concept can feel almost foreign. It can feel dangerously close to selfishness. But self-preservation is not selfishness. It is the bedrock of all genuine compassion. A lamp that has run out of oil cannot illuminate a dark room. A heart that has been drained dry by guilt, obligation, and empathic exhaustion cannot offer genuine warmth to anyone. If you are in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or beyond, you have already given decades of your life to the well-being of others. You have paid your dues to society and your family. The spiritual task of your current chapter is no longer an endless sacrifice. Your task now is clarity. Your task is peace. To achieve this peace, you must cultivate the courage to look honestly at the relationships in your life. You must recognize that certain behavioral patterns, even when they come from people you love deeply, are actively hindering your path. Establishing boundaries with these individuals is not a hateful act. It is not about building unscalable walls or abandoning those in need. It is a deliberate, compassionate step towards safeguarding the luminous years you have left. Type 1. The perpetual victim and the chronic complainer. We all know this person. Perhaps it is a lifelong friend who calls every single afternoon with a fresh grievance. Perhaps it is a sibling who has carried the same narrative of misery for 40 years. I say this with immense compassion, but for this individual, suffering has become their primary language. It is their default method of connecting with the world. Every conversation circles back to the same familiar themes. They complain about their deteriorating health, the ungratefulness of their children, the state of the government, the incompetence of their doctor, or the neighbor who slighted them. Because you have a kind heart, you listen. You offer a sympathetic ear. Somewhere deep inside, you carry a persistent hope that if you just listen long enough or offer the perfect piece of advice, their burden will lift. However, ancient Buddhist psychology offers a starkly different observation regarding this pattern, and modern science thoroughly backs it up. There is a Pali word, papancha, which describes the mental proliferation of suffering. The mind tends to take a tiny, manageable seed of discomfort and obsessively water it until it grows into an overwhelming, impenetrable forest of misery. An individual deeply trapped in papancha is not actually looking for a solution. If you manage to solve one of their problems, they will immediately uncover 3 new ones to take its place. They are simply looking for an audience. When you volunteer to be that audience, week after week and year after year, their suffering does not magically dissipate. Instead, it migrates. It leaves their body and takes up residence inside yours. You have likely felt the physical reality of this. You arrive for a visit feeling light and optimistic, but by the time you leave, your shoulders ache. Your chest feels tight. You feel completely drained. In psychology, this phenomenon is known as empathic exhaustion. For older adults, carrying this heavy foreign emotional weight is not just mentally taxing, it is physically dangerous. Chronic empathic exhaustion can severely disrupt your sleep patterns, weaken your immune system, and fundamentally alter your daily relationship with joy. What does wisdom look like when dealing with the perpetual victim? It certainly does not look like cruelty. It does not mean you must aggressively slam the door in their face and vow to never speak to them again. Wisdom in this scenario looks like a practice we can call compassion without absorption. You can absolutely love the chronic complainer. You can offer them genuine warmth. But you must also claim the right to tightly limit your exposure. You can decide that a phone call will last exactly 15 minutes, not 2 hours. You can learn the gentle art of redirection. When they launch into a familiar tirade, you can step in with steady kindness and say that you hear their frustration. But today you really need to focus on topics that bring you both a sense of lightness and peace. By doing this, you are not abandoning them in their time of need. You are simply refusing to jump into the quicksand with them. You are protecting your own vital energy so that you can continue to walk your own path with a steady, unburdened heart. Type 2. The guilt weaver and the emotional manipulator. This dynamic is often the most difficult to address because the emotional manipulator is rarely a stranger. Most often, they are someone woven deeply into the fabric of your daily life. They might be your spouse of 50 years, an adult child, or a sibling. They do not shout. They do not make overt threats. Instead, they have mastered a highly specialized language of quiet suffering. They use carefully constructed sentences designed to place the entire burden of their emotional well-being squarely onto your shoulders. They say things like, "I just thought after everything I have done for you, you would be here." Or they sigh and murmur, "I do not want to be a burden, I will just sit here alone." Each of these statements is a tiny, sharpened hook. The hook is cast with precision, designed to catch perfectly on your conscience and pull you back into their orbit. In Buddhist psychology, this insidious pattern often stems from lobha. We usually translate lobha as greed or materialism, but it is not always about money. In close relationships, lobha manifests as a desperate, clinging need to control the behavior and physical presence of others. Beneath their manipulative words, the guilt weaver is profoundly terrified. They are terrified of losing influence. They are terrified of abandonment. To soothe their own fear, they weaponize your immense capacity for love. Here is a crucial question you must ask yourself in the quiet of your own heart. When you interact with this person, when you cancel your much-needed rest to accommodate them, or when you apologize for situations that are completely outside your control, what is driving your behavior? Are you truly acting from a place of boundless love? Or are you acting from a place of fear? You might fear their tears, their silent treatment, or the possibility that they will tell the rest of the family that you are being selfish. The Buddha taught that actions rooted in fear can never produce genuine peace. Appeasing a guilt weaver does not heal their underlying terror. It only reinforces their manipulative strategy. Wisdom in this situation requires acute discernment. You must learn to distinguish between genuine moral responsibility, which Buddhists call sila, and manufactured obligation. You can hold immense love for your child or your sibling while simultaneously refusing to be managed by their emotional weather. Reclaiming your right to say no is not a betrayal. It is a necessary boundary that forces them to confront their own insecurities while allowing you to preserve the sacred tranquility of your final years. Type 3. The energy vampire and the crisis creator. We must draw a careful distinction here. The chronic complainer merely wants to tell you about their suffering. The energy vampire wants to enlist you actively in their chaos. They operate under the unspoken assumption that it is your absolute duty to hold their fragile life together. These individuals treat every minor inconvenience as a blazing emergency that requires your immediate physical presence, your immediate financial assistance, or your immediate emotional availability. They call at all hours. They always need just one more favor. If you attempt to step back or set a tiny boundary, they experience it as a profound betrayal. Many seniors find themselves caught in this exact trap. A woman who has spent her entire adult life as a dedicated caregiver to her children and her aging parents may suddenly find herself acting as the permanent anchor for an adult child who refuses to grow up. She finds she cannot sit in quiet meditation for 20 minutes without her phone buzzing with a new crisis. She wakes up at 3 in the morning with a racing heart, entirely consumed by someone else's manufactured drama. The Buddhist framework identifies this dynamic as upadana, which means clinging or attachment. The energy vampire clings to you because they have fundamentally failed to generate their own internal sense of safety. You have become their external battery pack. Here lies the painful paradox of over-helping. By always rushing in to save the day, you are actively preventing this person from developing resilience. Your constant availability is stunting their emotional growth. The most profoundly loving action you can take for an energy vampire is to practice what we might call loving distance. This does not mean turning your back on them or treating them with cold disdain. It means making a deliberate, compassionate choice to remain slightly out of reach. It means letting their phone calls go to voicemail while you finish your morning tea. It means allowing them to face the natural consequences of their own actions. By stepping back, you create the necessary space for them to discover that true stability must come from within. More importantly, loving distance allows you to guard your mornings, your silence, and the stillness that makes your spiritual practice possible. At your age, these moments of peace are not optional luxuries. They are the essential medicine your soul requires. If you are finding comfort and clarity in these teachings today, please take a quiet moment to subscribe to Buddha Coha. By joining our growing community, you help us keep this lamp burning, sharing these gentle lessons of peace with others who may be navigating the exact same struggles in their later years. Tap the subscribe button below, take a deep breath, and let us continue this beautiful journey of awakening together. Type 4. The Time Traveler and the Nostalgic Anchor. This fourth type of person is often the hardest to identify as a draining force because on the surface they appear completely harmless. They are deeply, stubbornly attached to the past. They cling to old memories, old roles, and outdated versions of who you used to be. When you spend time with the nostalgic anchor, they constantly remind you of mistakes you made 30 years ago, recounting the details as if the event happened last Tuesday. They continue to treat you according to a role you outgrew decades ago. They might still view you as the anxious one, the difficult sibling, or the one who always needed to be rescued. They refuse to acknowledge that you have evolved, matured, and found a deep well of inner peace. When you are in their presence, a dangerous psychological shift begins to occur. Because the groove of your shared history is worn so deep, it becomes incredibly easy to slide right back into it. Without even realizing it, you begin to shrink. You start responding to them as that older, smaller, more fearful version of yourself. This dynamic is profoundly contrary to one of the most central teachings of the Buddha, the truth of anicca, or impermanence. Absolutely nothing in this universe is static. Every cell in your body, every thought in your mind, and every facet of your identity is in a constant state of flux. The Buddha saw this impermanence not as a tragedy, but as ultimate liberation. You are definitely not the person you were at 40 or 60, or even last year. The nostalgic anchor is fighting a quiet, desperate war against impermanence. They desperately need you to stay the same because your growth threatens their comfort zone. If you have transformed, if you have found equanimity and spiritual depth, it disrupts the rigid story they have been telling themselves about how the world works. For seniors, yielding to this person carries a very specific danger. It can trick you into believing that your chapter of personal growth has already concluded. It makes you feel as though the person you have always been is the person you are condemned to remain. You must give yourself radical permission to outgrow your old identities. Do not let anyone drag you backward into a smaller version of yourself. Your spiritual evolution is an ongoing, vibrant process. You are still becoming. Protect that becoming by spending less time with those who refuse to see the light you carry today. Type 5. The Peace Disruptor and the Naysayer. This fifth type of person is perhaps the most insidious of all, because their interference often masquerades as deep care and logical reasoning. They are the friends or family members who constantly question your dedication to your spiritual path. They use a tone of gentle concern to say things like, "At your age, why are you spending so much time meditating alone? Shouldn't you be out enjoying yourself?" Or they might softly suggest that your newfound focus on peace is actually just a phase. Or worse, a sign that you are withdrawing from the world. They frame their interruptions as worry for your mental health. Sometimes this concern is genuine, though entirely misdirected. But if we look closely at the psychological undercurrents, something much more complex is happening. Your personal transformation is actively threatening them. When you begin to sit in stillness, when you start to question lifelong reactive patterns, and when you begin to protect your inner life deliberately, you inadvertently hold up a mirror to the people around you. Your quiet equanimity highlights their internal chaos. Because they are not yet ready to face their own unhealed wounds or their own lack of peace, they attempt to pull you back into the noisy, distracted world they understand. In Buddhist terms, this is a manifestation of the shadow side of micca ditthi, which translates to wrong view. It is not simply a factual error, it is a deeply mistaken understanding of what the ultimate purpose of human life actually is. The Naysayer operates from the tragic assumption that at a certain age, the possibility of genuine spiritual development has passed. They believe that profound wisdom is reserved for scholars or monks, and that ordinary seniors should simply distract themselves until the end. This view is entirely contradictory to the Dharma. The Buddha himself taught with unwavering dedication until his final breath. The ancient texts of the Pali tradition are filled with stories of ordinary people, farmers, grandmothers, former kings and merchants, who came to the path in the very last years of their lives and achieved ultimate liberation. Your meditation practice is not a frivolous hobby. Your desire for tranquility is not a passing phase. It is the most important, vital work available to a human being. The later years of life, with their natural loosening of worldly ambition and rigid identity, provide the most fertile ground for spiritual awakening that you have ever had. You must guard your practice the same way you would guard something profoundly sacred, because it is. When the Naysayer, with all their misplaced kindness and concern, tries to talk you out of your silence, you do not need to argue. You do not need to defend your choices or convince them of your path. You can simply listen, receive their care gracefully, smile, and then quietly return to your cushion. The ultimate solution, Metta from a distance. When you hear these descriptions, you likely recognize the faces of people you know. You might be feeling a heavy sense of conflict right now. You recognize these draining dynamics, yet you love these people deeply. Everything in your heart resists the idea of pulling away because you are not a cold person. You believe in loyalty. You believe in showing up for your family and friends. This conflict arises from a deeply ingrained societal myth. We have been conditioned to believe that love is measured by proximity and endurance. We are taught that if you truly love someone, you must always be physically present, always available to solve their problems, and always willing to sacrifice your own peace for their comfort. But that exhausting definition of love has never led anyone to true awakening. Buddhism offers a brilliant, liberating alternative through the practice of Metta, which is loving kindness. In this practice, we train our hearts to wish all beings well. We wish happiness for those near to us, those distant from us, and even those who have caused us tremendous frustration. However, there is a crucial distinction that can change the rest of your life. Metta absolutely does not require your constant physical proximity. It does not demand the sacrifice of your nervous system, your sleep, or your daily tranquility. You can send genuine, radiant, loving kindness to the chronic complainer from across town. You can hold the guilt tripper in your heart with deep warmth, while firmly declining their invitations to be manipulated. You can pray earnestly for the energy vampire to find their own healing without offering yourself up as the instrument of that healing at the cost of your own health. To practice loving kindness from a distance, you simply need to sit quietly and bring the person's face into your mind. Without anger and without blame, you silently repeat a few ancient intentions. May you be happy. May you be free from your suffering. May you find the strength to navigate your own path. You pour all of your love into those silent wishes, and then you let them go. You love them fully, completely, and with your whole heart, while still choosing to walk in a different direction to protect your inner light. These two concepts are not in conflict. In fact, it is only when you fiercely protect your own peace that you maintain a light bright enough to guide anyone else. Conclusion: reclaiming your final harvest. I want to close by speaking directly to the luminous reality of where you are right now. The years you have left are not a slow diminishment. They are not merely the long, quiet aftermath of a vibrant life already lived. They are your harvest. In many ways, this is the most brilliant chapter available to a practitioner of the Dharma. The heavy responsibilities that once defined your days, building a career, raising children, proving your worth to society, have finally softened. The ego has grown beautifully transparent. This is a rare, precious state of being, and it must not be squandered on endless emotional labor for those who refuse to grow. The Therigatha, the ancient songs of the elder Buddhist nuns, contains verse after stunning verse about women who found ultimate awakening late in life. They found freedom after decades of ordinary life, after surviving marriages, profound losses, immense grief, and daily drudgery. One text speaks of a woman who felt she had spent 60 years sleepwalking through her duties, only to finally wake up to ultimate peace in her twilight years. This profound awakening is available to you right now in this exact chapter of your life. But it is only available if you are brave enough to guard your remaining time. Protect the hours you set aside for breathing and simply being. Guard your energy wisely, the way a master gardener guards a late-season bloom, knowing that the time is precious and the frost can arrive without warning. The complainer, the emotional manipulator, the crisis creator, the nostalgic anchor, and the naysayer are not villains. They are simply human beings caught in their own webs of suffering. They absolutely deserve your compassion, and they deserve your loving kindness. But they do not deserve your final years. You deserve your final years. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from enmity and danger. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings take care of themselves in happiness. And remember, this ancient blessing includes you. It has always included you. Go gently, go wisely, and may your remaining days be filled with the unshakable peace you have entirely earned.